Alright, so you saw me last time and I was getting my blood drawn. Well, now I have my beautiful results back. So, first off, this is the binder that you get. Pretty straightforward. Bunch of great information, but I just really want to focus on the results and kind of the next step. So we do have a website where everyone can go and get more support. Phenomenal. Actually, you can talk directly with our nutritionist when you go on to the forum. So here are my results. So the first thing that I have is my Bloodprint card. So as I zoom into it, there we go. You can see all the foods that I'm intolerant to. Now, actually, this isn't the original card that I have because I printed two because the first one I went ahead and marked up. So let's put it down there so you can see all the foods there. It's just the same card. All I did is I just marked it up because I've been tested quite often with Immuno, because we recommend that you test every 6 months. So I have my other one down here too. So you can see April. So what I do is I always pull my cards, all of them, all the way out, so that I can do a comparison and see trends that have occurred. So that one, and then I have this one. Maybe I should have gotten all these cards out ahead of time, huh? I'm probably been a little bit smarter. Alright, so let's see. So the first one that I have was back in 2008. You can see I have 16 foods. I got some shellfish, some peppers, some yeast, some beans. As we move into 2010, so I misplaced my other cards. You can see that I have beans again, big time, and I also have blueberries, milk, and then the yeast still, and still some of the shellfish. And you can tell that I went down the food. So I went from 16 foods total to then having 13 foods. Then we go into 2011, a year later from the last one, and now I have 14 foods total. And this time I'm marking a little bit better. So I went up a little bit, but the cool thing was that I went down in yeast. So now we go to 2012, a year later, and the yeast, the brewer's one went up 1, the other one stayed the same, got a bunch of kind of new foods, but all low reactivity, and I'm back down to 13. So initially I went 13, 14, now I'm back at 13. So I'm doing a decent job of just kind of maintaining. Now what you can see is I've jumped up a lot. My last test was 13, this one I have 19. Alright? The old ones removed 3 foods, so that means that 3 foods from my last test to this one, 3 of them are gone. 10 foods stayed the same, meaning they remained here and they didn't go up or down in reactivity. 1 food increased, and I have 8 new foods. Now when I see a total of 19 foods from the people that we test, usually what I find out from doctors, or if I happen to know them, if they're a friend of mine, or if the doctor's asking us for advice, is we usually find out later on that the person suffers from leaky gut. So let me show you the foods that went away. So the foods that went away was amaranth, Brussels sprouts, and turnips. So those are the ones from the last one, and you will see those foods here. Amaranth, Brussels sprouts, and turnips are there. Then I go back to this one, you can see that they are no longer there. There's no A's whatsoever. Alright, so those are all the cards. And by the way, when you get this, if you look right there, you peel the card here. It's probably a little tricky to do with my one hand, but you can actually peel it right off of this paper. If I had 2 hands, it would be a lot easier to do. Alright, so the next page that I have is these are my test results, my full test results. Now the beauty of this is that, yes, it shows all my reactive foods, which you can see here, the beans and all the other foods. And then as you go down here, these are all the non-reactive foods. So I tested on 154 different foods, and here are all the foods that I can eat. So this is usually what I focus on, because you know what you shouldn't eat, all right? It's told you right there, but the real thing is kind of opening your eyes to what you can eat. So it's fantastic. I love it. Then we have, or at least I chose, to have the 4-day rotation diet. This is based on the concept of elimination diet because we don't want you to eat the same food over and over and over again. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I'll probably talk about it more later once I meet with our doctor. Alright, now here was some shocking news. So we also test you for Candida. Candida is an overgrowth of, well, Candida is a yeast in your gut. When you test positive, that means that there's an overgrowth of Candida. So you can see right here, positive. That is not too good. Now, what you also see when I get down to the scaling of it is that I am positive, but not, not strongly. So I guess that's the upside. Also, I'm only positive on the ELISA test and not with the immunodiffusion. Once again, I'll clarify this more later in the next video. So it's no surprise to me because when you're positive to Candida, you have several different symptoms because it kind of all relates, your gut. But the one thing that I always remember hearing was sugar cravings and fatigue, sometimes some skin stuff, and headaches. And recently, I do recall having some headaches. I thought it was caffeine related because I started drinking some coffee, which that's not a good idea, at least in my opinion. So I stopped drinking the coffee. Headaches, existed for a little bit, and then they went away. But I do have the sugar cravings, and as I thought back, actually, just the other day, someone was asking me about like eating sweets and stuff, and I was like, yeah, I've kind of been eating more sweets than I remember, because I used to just really not have any desire for it. So, anyways, there's the Candida. Next one here, this is the H. pylori, and what this one's testing you for is the bacteria in the gut. Now, everyone has H. pylori. I found somewhere there's like 80% of the world population has H. pylori, but majority of them don't have it activated. So you have the H. pylori, but it's not turned on. It's not interacting with your system. So once again, as we look down here, I am not positive. I'm negative. So that's excellent. Now, I always go kind of a step further, and I looked at my results from the last time. And what you can see is that I went up 0.02 levels on H. pylori. Okay, so I've increased that a little bit. I'm not really concerned about it, but I just like to watch the trend. Alright, next we have Anti-Gliadin. I'm just going to keep this real short. Anti-Gliadin is basically testing you to see if you have an issue with gluten. We all know the word gluten and wheat and all that, so it's just telling me do I have an issue with gluten or not. And these two will lead to kind of the progression of celiacs. They don't diagnose for celiacs, but it's preventative. So you're finding out first, would you have an issue? This one is less concerning when it's positive than this one. This is much closer to having a celiac reaction, having a gluten intolerance. So I was negative on both of those, but once again, being kind of an analytics freak that I am, I wanted to keep track. So my IgG reaction has gone up +2, and my IgA has gone up +4. So what I'm doing is I'm taking these numbers and comparing it from my last test to this test on my Anti-Gliadin. So once again, no issues there, but I just always like to keep track of it. Now the last thing that we have here, which you gotta really pan out to show you the whole thing, is we have the health guide. Now in the health guide, it gives me tons of information in regards to how, let's see, so I kind of go through this real quick. So it's just the guide and kind of how do I work with the results, what do I need to start eating, how do I do the eating, how do I swap things, what are some meal plannings, and then also it has a chapter on the hidden food list, because a lot of times, we also talk within the food families, and the substitutions as well. But a lot of times, you'll have an issue with wheat, but the label will say durum. Well, durum is wheat. Semolina, that's wheat too. So we give you some more information there. I'm definitely going to have to keep track of this little bad boy, chapter 12, and get those results. And then just real quick, the last thing that we provide you is the DVDs. What the DVDs do is they help walk you through the various levels of getting better. So as you can see on this one, zoom in a little bit there, it's talking about reintroduction of foods, meal planning, desserts. The other one is on various recipes, and when it says like muffins and pancakes, it's going to show you how to do it gluten-free and avoiding the kind of tricky things to avoid. So someone goes, oh my God, how am I going to eat anything if I can't have wheat, milk, and eggs? Well, we show you how you can easily do that. And the first video is probably one of the most important because it introduces it and gives you an idea of how to get the best results. So, right now, this is going to be my objective, to reduce these foods as much as possible so when I test in 6 months coming up, I'll have much better results and I'll get my gut straightened out, because I have a feeling that I probably have leaky gut. Alright, talk to y'all soon, and let's see, when I come back on, I'll have to talk with a doctor, see if they want me to video them or not, but either way, I'll talk about my experience with my doctor and how they're going to be able to help me.